speak for me today, and he's going to do that. But just as a way of introduction for him, Wally and Debbie came from the Palm Bay, Florida area, and Wally will tell you more about this in his time. But I remember, Wally, I think I remember the first Sunday you guys came. I think I do. If not, I remember the second, because people often come one time and you never see them again because they're from out of town or whatever. But they moved up here to get away from, I don't know, what y'all move to get away from? The city. Yeah. Well, you came to the right place, brother. But Wally asked me if I would go to lunch with him and talk about our church, and so we did. And we've been fast friends ever since, I believe. We almost go out to eat at least once a week. And we're Southern, so we eat fried food. But Wally, you come on, brother, and share with us what the Lord has given you. And we look forward to hearing what he's given to you. Thank you so much. If you want to take that out of there and walk around with it, you can.
I may do that. I've started a new medication, and so I get a little thirsty once in a while, so I hope y'all don't mind if I hit the bottle to get through this. As Pastor Keith said, for y'all that don't know me, I'm Wally Baldwin. And for those of you who do know me, well, I'm still Wally Baldwin. And so he asked me today to speak about the motorcycle ministry that we've been a part of for the last 15 years. Actually, a little longer than that. We've been spirit riders for 15 years. If you recall in a sermon that he did last Sunday, he was talking about how easy it is as Christians to look down on those that we think aren't going to heaven, how we think that we're better than they are, how they're going to hell and I'm not, was what he said. So hopefully, when we're done talking about this morning, you'll see the kind of segue what I'm talking about made into what he had as a message for us last Sunday. And so I thought I'd start a little bit about history and motorcycle clubs and patches and that kind of thing to kind of set the stage for what I'm going to talk about, maybe help you understand a little bit. He told me he only had an hour and a half, and so I'll try to get it all in there in that amount of time. All right, so it's fall of 1945. World War II had just ended, and many of the troops are coming home. In fact, so many troops had found their way back to the States that there weren't enough jobs to support the population coming back. These troops were becoming disenfranchised with the country. They couldn't find work. They couldn't find affordable housing because of no jobs. They had a difficult time eating. They missed the brotherhood of combat, and they missed the jazz. If you've been in combat, you know what the jazz is. If you haven't been, there's no way you can understand it. And so many turned to motorcycles as an escape. They found that brotherhood in other veterans who were in the same position they were in. They wanted to find the brotherhood. And that's what it is. It's a brotherhood, because you may not know the person in the foxhole beside you, but when you get out of that foxhole, you're brothers. And that's all there is to it. And that's the kind of brotherhood that these troops were looking for. And they were also looking for the jazz. And you know, I can tell you from experience, riding a motorcycle provides a lot of jazz sometimes. But soon clubs formed. These guys found a lot of people like-minded, and they formed different clubs. Well, the American Motorcycle Association was founded in 1924 as an organizing arm of motorcycle manufacturers. The motorcycle manufacturers supported the AMA because they wanted to promote motorcycle riding so that they could sell more motorcycles. So at events, the AMA would give awards for like best dressed clubs. And so that's kind of how patches started, because that's what the motorcycle riders back then coveted, was a patch to have on their vest showing that they won an award. Well, there was during a AMA event in 1947 in Hollister, California, that a member of the Boost Fighters Motorcycle Club made the headlines, and some of you older folks might remember this. In Harper's Magazine, they published an article regarding the takeover of Hollister by the Boost Fighters Motorcycle Club. That story was later made into a movie that starred Lee Marvin and Marlon Brando. Anybody think of the name of it? That's it, The Wild Ones. So that slide will show the Boost Fighters motorcycle patch. So that's the current patch. It evolved over the years, but these are the folks that started the whole patch thing that I'm going to get into, and then which enabled us to do what we do as Spirit Riders. Now, in order to designate themselves, the AMA wrote that article, and they said that 99% of American motorcycle riders are friendly, family type of people. Only 1% are outlaws, as they call them. Well, the clubs, some of these guys that were looking for the jazz, decided they were going to take that 1% moniker and embrace it. They're going to be the 1% that broke the rules, that they were going to happily wear that outlaw motorcycle club stigma. So in order to designate themselves as an outlaw club, the 1%ers would cut their patches into 3 different pieces. Well, I'll get into that in a little bit. But the top was the rocker that had the name of the club. Oftentimes for those guys, the 1%ers, the bottom rocker had their area where they were from, their location, their city, their state, town. And then the middle was the patch. Then, of course, the MC on the side there for this particular patch stands for Motorcycle Club, and the 16 stands for the chapter number that they're from. So that this chapter could be from anywhere. We've got a bunch of friends that were in Boost Fighters chapter down in Vero Beach. But for these guys, there weren't any Best Dress Awards. They could care less about that. They would chop their bikes down where they would look different and go faster, ride without mufflers. They would just drink and party and carry on and do all kinds of wild things, such as motorcycle history. But today, patches have changed a little bit, and this is how they're recognized today. This particular patch is called a one-piece patch. And it normally signifies like a family type club or riding club. It's not so much a motorcycle club, even though it says motorcycle club. They're not the type of a traditional motorcycle club. They have only one patch, and notice there's no top, no bottom rocker, other than the word motorcycle patch on there. They don't have the little patch designating them as an MC. So these are the less hardcore. These are just enthusiasts. I guess that's a good word. Motorcycle enthusiasts. The two-piece patch has a different meaning. If you notice here, this is the Combat Vets Association. Now, they're an association, not a motorcycle club. I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but that bottom word, the top part going around the center of their patch there is Combat Vets. The bottom part says association, and the bottom part says Vets Helping Vets, or something like that. So that's their two-piece patch right there. They've got 2 different pieces on their back, and that's what they wear. And they're not necessarily a ride club, but this particular club, and there's many veterans clubs. There's the USMCMV, United States Military Veterans Motorcycle Club. There are all kinds of veteran clubs out there, and there's even police clubs. Now there's some police clubs that think they're 1%ers, and they want to live that lifestyle without necessarily stepping over that edge. And that's a whole nother story, and that doesn't come to play into what I'm talking about. But and then you have the 3-piece patch. Now, if you notice, there's all kinds of 3-piece patches here. You can't necessarily see it, because if you can't see that, I can't really see that. We'll try and look. If you notice, the first one is the Banditos. It says Banditos worldwide. So they claim the world is their property. All right. And in a minute, I'll tell you why that's kind of important to them. Notice that little diamond on the right is the 1%er diamond. They're designating themselves as a 1%er club. They're the outlaw club. And by the way, these are the top 5 outlaw clubs in the world. There's many 1%er clubs, but these are the top 5, the 5 biggest. And indeed, all 5 of these have a worldwide presence. The Outlaws, which you may have seen around here, just down the road here, is the Wheels of Man Motorcycle Club. You've probably seen the motorcycles on 129 right out there. They're a one-piece patch. They're more of a riding club, I suppose, who like to think they're a little more hardcore than that. But I've known a lot of those guys for a while. I don't know any of these here because people come, people go. I've known some of those Wheels of Man, and I'll talk a little bit more about that and how I know them in just a moment. But you can see the Outlaws have the Florida patch. You see the Hells Angels, which is probably the most well-known 1%er club in the world, the Hells Angels. Everybody at one time or another has probably heard something, whether it's a news report, seen it in a newspaper, read about them in a magazine, talked about them with somebody. But Hells Angels is, and you know, they have a state there also, and they call that the Death's Head. Oh, by the way, the skull and cross Pistons up there, his name's Charlie. That's what they call him, Charlie. So then they have the Death's Head. Then you have the Mongols there, the Mongols Nation. The Mongols Nation, when a patch says nation, it's more, so this would be the O'Brien Baptist Church Nation. You follow me? We're all part of the O'Brien Baptist Church. This is our nation here. So if you're a Mongol and you're wearing that patch, that's part of it. You're part of the Mongol Nation. And then the Warlocks. If you see that says Warlocks, that says Station Crew. I know a bunch of those guys. The Station Crew bought a old firehouse and renovated it, complete with the fire pole and everything. And so they put on big events there. They have big parties. They have live music. And when you're in this world, like we've tried to be, then you go to these events and you support them. And you show them that you put your pants on one leg at a time, just like they do. We just have different ways of doing things. Like when we go to an event to support these folks, support and respect is a big deal in the motorcycle world. Give respect, get respect. That's how they look at it. And so when we go to these places, we make it known that we live a different lifestyle simply by the way we behave while we're there. So, for example, if we go to get a drink and they're serving, it's like pouring out of a can into a plastic cup with some ice, we keep the can. We'll hold the cup halfway and hold the can the other way because they're drinking out of a plastic cup too, and it's probably got alcohol in there. And if they see that we have the can, they'll see that we're not drinking anything. At least that's the message that we're trying to give. If they start smoking a joint, we go over there and stand, or we go over there and stand. We turn our backs to them. We don't just stand and stare. We don't get on our bikes and leave, because what's that telling them? That we think we're better than they are. And we aren't any better than they are. As I'm talking, I may say I may say we. It may sound like I'm talking about myself. It may sound like I'm talking about Debbie. Or it may sound like I'm talking about the Spirit Riders Motorcycle Ministry in general. Bear in mind, folks, if I say I, the only reason why I can say I is because he saw fit to use somebody like me. That's it. I was willing to go, and he allowed me to do something that I love doing, riding a motorcycle. I loved riding a motorcycle. But these patches here, in a minute I'll talk about the dominant clubs. if you wanted to start a motorcycle club or wanted to a riding group or anything, you have to go to whoever the dominant club is. We tried to start a club or a ministry in Mississippi, and the Banditos wouldn't let us. They said our colors look too much like theirs, and they wouldn't let us start one. But Outlaws, we have members over in the Tampa area that the Outlaws gave us their blessing. In Brevard County, the Warlocks. In Volusia County, the Mongos. And in North Carolina, where we have some members, the Hells Angels gave their blessing for us to wear our colors and do what we do. We had to go ask permission first. Now, I know that probably sounds kind of weird to everybody who has no idea how that motorcycle world works. But that's how it works, and you got to go get permission about it. Some of the clubs have certain patches. If you have committed a crime for the club, they give you a certain patch so all the members know. The average person or other clubs may not know exactly what that particular patch means, but all the members and that club worldwide will know what that one patch means. If you've served prison time, then you'll know what that patch means. They'll get a certain patch for that. So some of these guys have a lot of patches on their vest. And the patches tell a story. And I'll tell our story in just a moment. But these clubs have many sayings. God forgives, outlaws don't. That's pretty serious. That's a pretty serious saying there. You cut one, we all bleed. Which means you cut one and there's going to be retribution from all of us. This isn't the place to find out you can't handle your alcohol. That's a pretty serious one. You go there and you make a mistake, well, give respect, get respect. That's what I mentioned earlier. So all these clubs have their sayings. And so next, we have us, Spirit Riders Motorcycle Ministry. If you notice, we have a 3-piece patch. That's because we're serious about what we do. We're serious about riding motorcycles and sharing the Word of God. And notice our little patch says MM instead of MC. So that means we're a motorcycle ministry. Now, there are Christian motorcycle clubs, but we chose to be a ministry instead of a club. And suffice it to say that the protocols that you follow when you're a motorcycle club, there's rules and protocols and things established in the motorcycle world that you follow. If you're a motorcycle ministry, you're expected to follow one thing. If you're a motorcycle club, you're expected to do something else and react a certain way. And so when Pastor Keith made a statement a while back that, I can't remember if it was a Sunday evening or a Wednesday evening, that when you get up here someplace like this, you should be dressed your best to represent God when you're up here. So in that case, I need to put on my uniform. And so here's my uniform. I've worn this vest so long that it doesn't fit well anymore. But this is my church clothes. Because when I try to get people to come to church, it's kind of hard to tell somebody we're motorcycle friendly, come dressed as you are, and I'm not dressed like them. They'll come the first time, and then they'll see that they're the only one here dressed like that, and they'll think I set them up or something. So I have to dress like they do in order to make them feel comfortable. And the church we went to down there, we were there for a long time, and the church supported what we did. Now, I don't mean financially. Spirit Riders is a self-supporting ministry. We have an amount that we give every month, and we don't ask for money. We don't beg for money. We don't. If we have an event, then somebody wants to make a donation. That's one thing, but we don't ask for money. So the church doesn't support us monetarily. They support us prayerfully. They support us by allowing me to dress like this. Now, there's a difference here. These are hard colors. If you're going to go to a motorcycle event, you wear your hard colors. If you're just going to run to the store, ride around, you don't get on your motorcycle without your colors on, period. If you're just going to go to the store or something that's not an event, we have soft colors. And believe me, in Florida, you need soft colors. But you can tell the story. You can tell a story by looking at somebody's vest. Like I mentioned on the street percenter, or on those three-piece patch, those 1%er patches up there, you can tell a story. So, first of all, here's our Spirit Rider patch for the front. My last position with Spirit Riders was vice president. Debbie was the treasurer. And so she has a vest almost like this. But mine says Men of Honor. After 10 years in the ministry, you survived, and you get this patch here, Men of Honor. Now, I say survived. For those that have never been in the ministry, surviving ministry for 10 years is no small feat, is it, Pastor Keith? Sometimes it's tough. I've been 10 years, so actually I should be getting a 15-year patch because we've been there for a little bit longer. This, what looks like the rebel flag, is actually the pen designating Spirit Riders as belonging to the COC. And I'll speak more about that in just a moment. Now, the men get the cross. So this JFFJ patch, for example, the Warlocks would wear one that said WFFW, Warlocks Forever, Forever Warlocks. Our JFFJ stands for Jesus Forever, Forever Jesus. And you ride a motorcycle, you're going to get a road name whether you like it or not. They couldn't figure out what to call me. Finally, they settled on Mutt because they said I'm just a mix of all kinds of stuff. And so, of course, Debbie's road name is Mutter. At one point, she was the oldest female member in the ministry, so Mutter is German for mother. And then we have the 10 patch here. Now that, the 1%ers like the diamond patch. This triangle, no, it's not a diamond. There's no mistaking it for a diamond. It tells a message. You have red over black, the blood of Jesus over the darkness, and then you have 10. For the Warlocks, for example, 23, W is the 23rd letter in the alphabet. So a lot of times you will see 23 inside their 1%er patch. J is the 10th letter in the alphabet. I can't tell you how many times that simple patch right there has allowed me to talk to anybody in a clubhouse where I'm at. It starts with, what's that mean? I know what the diamond means. What's that mean? So that allows us to start talking, because you just don't get off your motorcycle going, praise God, glory, hallelujah, because we'll run like a bunch of cats. And so you have to be kind of subtle sometimes. In the motorcycle world, women are considered property in the 1%er world. Many times they'll wear a patch that says property of whomever their old man happens to be. Oftentimes, they're club property, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Our women are full patched members, because how could we claim to be Christians and not treat them as equal? And so, but the most important thing about that is, in the motorcycle world, a man doesn't walk up to another woman and start talking to her. I can't tell you the number of times Debbie has been able to get a phone number and text somebody's property because they're having a hard time, because they need somebody to talk to. Sorry. I love this thing. But so I can see that I better keep moving along here. So many of the spirit writers, so it's not even a no, but I'm ordained. I didn't have the opportunity to go to seminary, but I took classes online and became online or ordained online. You may think, well, that doesn't count. Well, you know something, it may or may not, but I've been able to be a chaplain for a lot of organizations. And before we moved here, I was a chaplain for the Gustav Hospital System and for Health First Hospital System. So I was chaplain for all the hospitals in the county. But not just me, a lot of the spirit writers. We had spirit writers who are ordained through their various churches. And we all went to different churches, so we didn't become kind of cult-like. Some were Nazarenes, some were Baptists, some were non-denominational, some were Assemblies of God. But we all had one thing in common. We loved Jesus Christ, and we loved taking the word out. So being ordained, I was able to do, I've gotten calls in the middle of the night, motorcycle accident, can you please come pray? I've gotten calls, I can get in, as a chaplain, I can get into ICU when your loved ones can't. So I could come visit you and see what kind of shape you're in, because this loved one can't get in to ICU. There's been times when there's motorcycle crashes out on the interstate. The United States Military Vets, USMVMC, were moving. They had a big party down South Florida, national party, and they had an accident. One of them had an accident out on I-95, and we had big fifth wheels sitting on the side of the house. We opened our home, we opened our house to these guys who were out of town. Well, the club looked out for their own, and the club members that were from that area made sure they were taken care of, but and so they didn't come. But that's not the point. The point is we opened our home. Spirit writer. Oh, and so support. So supporting something is a big deal too. So y'all know Aiden. When Aiden was little, he had a walker. He was in a walker, and he would bulldoze over everything. And so we called him Tank. Tank. There's his little support pad. Now, spirit riders didn't always go to clubhouses. There's times when Debbie's gone to clubhouses with me, but certain events only the men went to. Whitney they called her Thumbs because she was so fast typing with a phone. They called her Thumbs. That was her support. So by support, and Doug was a support member for a while. And so by support, that means if we have like a bike blessing or Easter service or something, they come out and help pass out stuff or carry things or whatnot. But Spirit Riders wasn't always all. Our model started out being, we don't eat till we're full, we eat till we're tired. No, that wasn't our model. Our model was bridging the gap between Jesus Christ and the 1%er world. So then we decided that wasn't inclusive. That was exclusive. Because some of these riding clubs that may want a chaplain or may want somebody may feel left out if it was all about the 1%er world. So we changed it, bridging the gap between Jesus Christ and the motorcycle community. So that's what we're about. We're chaplains for a lot of organizations, as I said. There's one in particular, ABATE. Brevard County had one of the largest ABATE chapters in the country, and a couple of us were chaplains for them. And then another chapter started down south of us, and they asked me to be the chaplain. And it's amazing the things that you learn about people, and stuff. It's amazing if you'll just be there. it was one time when I got a call, and there was a family, one of our members whose mother was on life support, and they were going to discontinue life support. And the family didn't feel like sitting in the room. They asked if I would go and sit with her. So I did. I had an opportunity to read to her from the Bible, and to this day, occasionally I hear from that family how grateful they were that I was there for them in their time of need. We have weddings and funerals. You know, when motorcycle folks, a lot of them believe in God, but they're unchurched. How deep their belief is, who knows? But they just know when there's a wedding or a funeral, they want someone to do it. So funeral for biker community can be a big deal. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Weddings, okay, so what are their choices? Well, first of all, I don't just go and marry somebody. Most of the time it's somebody I know. That's how they know to ask me. But I'll meet with them 2 or 3 times because I want to make sure that I'm not making a mistake. I want to make sure I'm not making a mistake by joining these folks in marriage and it goes south. That's only happened to me one time. I've performed a lot of marriages over the years, and that's only happened one time. But their choices are either give me an opportunity to pray over their lives, to pray over their marriage, to pray over the success of what they're doing, or then go to justice and peace. One couple was telling me that they walked out of the ceremony because they were doing somebody that was like an Indian, Native American, like an Indian. They were trying to do incense and that kind of stuff. No, this is too creepy. We'll go find somebody else. And that's how they found us. We have opportunity for counseling sometimes. And in this world, those folks need it. Debbie has done her share of it with the females of the biker world. So there's a thing called the COC. And that's this is one of the meetings from the COC. And it's a confederation of clubs. And the COC is what's keeping the peace pretty much in the United States between these various motorcycle clubs. And there are, this is an organization that Spirit Riders is a member of. One of our members was chaplain for a long time. Got to open the meeting with all these hardcore bikers, all these 1%ers, all these people who think they don't know Jesus, they don't need Jesus. Got to open the meetings in prayer and end them in prayer. And so you can see there's can't see that one back there. There's the Kingsmen, there's the Warlocks, there are the Saints. There's a bunch of them up there. Saints, don't let that name fool you. There's a bunch of them up there. But the COC, like I said, is what's keeping the peace in this country. What's that mean? That means in England, they're still shooting each other off their motorcycles. The outlaws are shooting the Warlocks, who are shooting the Hells Angels. We had a granddaughter born in England, and Debbie and I went over there, and I was talking to one of the Warlocks who came from England, and when he found out that I was going, oh, you got to go to the clubhouse in Lincolnshire. Oh, okay, I'll go. So I get there, and they thought I was coming for a 2-week visit, and they already gave me a bodyguard and a place to stay in their clubhouse. They gave me a bodyguard, folks. You hear what I'm telling you? And so I told him, oh, bro, I'm sorry. I don't know where the disconnect came. I only came for a couple hours. We're here visiting my daughter who had a baby, and so I just came by here. And so I called this other guy's name, and I said, he told me, come by here. So I'm here. By the way, here's a Bible that says Warlocks MC, Lincolnshire, England, for you as a gift. We gave the clubhouse a Bible to have. They didn't have one until then. And I made friends with some of the guys there, and I kept in touch with them for a long time. And they still had that Bible, and occasionally they would open it up and they would go to it. And so I know most of these folks in this slide. And so in this next slide, why do we do what we do? I don't know if you can see that. I'll read it for you. But this is a people plundered and despoiled. A prey that none to deliver them. Pray, not P-R-A-Y, P-R-E-Y. A prey with none to deliver them. None to say, give them back. Who among you will give ear to this? That's Isaiah 42, verses 22 and 23. So, who's going to take it to them? Who's going to let them know how much they need Jesus? Okay, so then this next slide, I paraphrased this a little bit, but I'm going to read that one to you because there's a lot of tiny writing. And it came, bear in mind this paraphrasing it, and I've changed it. I did that to try to get my point across. It came to pass, as Jesus rode up to the clubhouse, behold, many bikers and riders came and sat down with him and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, why hangeth out your president with bikers and riders? But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, they that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. But go ye and learn what that means. I will have mercy and not sacrifice, for I am not come to call the righteous, but the sinners to repentance. I know you've heard that before. So I guess maybe you can see what changing that little bit did. This next slide. Yep, that's my motorcycle. Was one of them I had. Whom shall I send and who will go? Then said I, here I am, send me. There's been times when I've been sitting on the couch after a long week and it's a Friday night and it's a bike night somewhere and I know I should go and I don't want to go and I'm trying to think of everything I can do, and there's the well off in the distance. I always called it the Jonah complex. Okay, I'm going. And so I'd pull up to a bike night. I was hoping when you guys would show up because I need some prayer. And so, anyway, this next slide, I'll change gears here a little bit. See what I did there? Change gears. Man, what a tough crowd. I'll be here all week. I hope everybody else that comes is a little, okay, no. I've been riding motorcycles since I was forever. I've been riding motorcycles a long time, off and on for a long time. My first one I got when I was about 1958, I guess. But I have a partner in crime. She rode her motorcycles for years, followed me all over. She's had several too. She'd followed me all over the southeastern United States, riding her own motorcycle, following me. We've had all kinds of fun together. There's been times when Whitney was still in high school and whatnot, we'd get on the motorcycles. Whitney would ride with me, and Debbie would ride her bike, and we'd take off. And wherever we decided we were going, that's where we'd spend the night at. So it's not just a family. It's not just the hardcore thing. It's also a family thing. We would have, and so she loved riding that motorcycle, but unfortunately her eyesight changed that, and we had to start riding two up. Well, that turned out kind of small, didn't it? But you can see riding two up. Well, notice this patch says retired. I had some back problems and I couldn't trust my legs. The doctor said it was probably a good idea to get off the thing. So after all those years, we got off the thing, and well, there we are. So this next slide will show we did Easter services. We did we did Biker Sundays. I'm reading my notes. Explain Biker Sunday. So the Easter service, one of our members pastored the Lighthouse Church of God, Lighthouse of Church of God, and he would get beachside. There was this big pavilion that he would get every year and have his church's sunrise service. But he would reserve it till noon so spirit riders could have their Easter service for bikers. Starts at 10. Easter or sunrise service for bikers starts at 10. It's not a joke if you forget the punchline, is it? But that's what we called it. The sunrise service for bikers starts at 10. And we would have probably 125, 150 people show up on motorcycles just to be able to go to a church service somewhere. And they're not getting up. After a long Saturday night, they're not going to get up on Sunday morning at sunrise to go to church. So we had Biker Sunday. On Biker Sunday, when we first started doing that, we were, this is at the Rockledge Church of the Nazarene, one of our members went to, and it was the largest church any of our members went to, so that's why we went there. And for the Biker Sunday. The Biker Sunday, we were feeding between 800 and 900 people after the service. We had a ramp built, turned off the lights, turned on the smoke machine, start playing Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf, and here come the motorcycle. Down the middle of the aisle, up the ramp, and up to the pulpit. One time, we even had Sergeant Scott Behringer, who was the supervisor for the Brevard County Sheriff's motor unit, chase the bike. It was a setup, but chase the bike with sirens and lights on and pull them over. And then they went through their little skit. Did you see the sign back there? No, I didn't see any sign. And there's where the message started. When you're in church, you've got 1,000 people, and you start playing Born to Be Wild, and motorcycles are rolling down through there, the place goes nuts. But then it becomes quiet once the preaching starts. I guess we'll go on to the next slide. Now, who wouldn't want to be considered wise in the eyes of the Lord? Spirit Riders has seen fruit over the years, but only because we've remained diligent. And we've taken that, I'll go, send me, seriously. So we'll just skip on a little bit here. This is one of my favorite pictures. With a little imagination, we can almost see what Jesus saw once the stone was rolled away from inside the tomb. A world full of bikers, a world full of bakers, candlestick makers, a world full of sinners, a world he came to save. Now, this is probably one of the most quoted verses from the Bible. And we all have seen this before. For God so loved the world, he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. But when I would go someplace, especially if I'm talking to somebody I know that's not churched, and they have doubts or don't care one way or the other, I also bring this verse along just to drive the point home. This is just a couple of verses later. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe stands condemned already, because he's not believed in the name of God's one and only Son. So you got good news and you got bad news. The good news is, if you believe, you're guaranteed your place. And if you don't, well, eternity's a long time. All right. So we'll go on to the next slide. Oh, you can't see this, but this is a picture of a biker sitting between some Christians. The Christian on the left says he thinks he's a Christian. The two on the right say, you aren't a true follower like us. The biker is reading his Bible and it says, Christ, my heart is yours. 1 Samuel 16, verse 7. The Lord does not see as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Remember, this was part of Pastor Key's message last week. I'm going to go to the next one there. This is my brother, not my real brother, but he's my brother, just Bob. Notice I said we all have road names. His name was just Bob. And there's a funny story there. And if anybody'd like to know, I'll tell you later. But Robert Just Bob Tupin died in a motorcycle accident on I-95 one night. And standing on the side of the road, looking in the canal, we can see the motorcycle lights are on. We can't see him anywhere. When someone dies in a motorcycle club, they may call it Valhalla. The other clubs may call it something. We call ours the Streets of Gold. So Bob right now is a member of the Streets of Gold crew. This guy parachuted into Afghanistan, broke his back. He was a major in the United States Army and had to get out on a medical discharge. But he's an honest hero. He's had several bronze leaves and oak leaf clusters, and he was a good guy, and memory of Bob. So, that's us, Spirit Riders Motorcycle Ministry. And hope you enjoyed this. Hope that it was informative. I hope that, I got to tell you something, though. The church we came from, kind of hard sometimes in the middle of something. You've been there so long, you become complacent. You don't realize how little maybe somebody's doing something. But since we've been here, y'all have welcomed us with open arms and made us feel right at home, part of this family. And, I feel like God may have closed the door for me with Spirit Riders and Debbie. I think he's opened the door here at O'Brien Baptist Church. And I'm sure there's a whole hallway of doors yet open before my time here is done. So that's what I got to say, and I'm thankful to be here on behalf of my family. We're all thankful to be here.
Wally, that was awesome. That was awesome. Just think of the people in this country and around the world the church will never get to. And then guys like that are doing what the church doesn't. So, yeah, I could see supporting a ministry like that without any problem at all. I read a book by Tom Clancy years ago. They just made a movie out of it. It's on Netflix. And Michael and I watched it the other night, and we didn't like it because it didn't follow the book at all. Anyway, but I did a book report on that when I was in seminary. And I said, who is reaching the prostitutes of the world with the gospel? Oh, there's a few organizations here and there. But that's another group of people the church will never meet. And I'll close with this. Tony Campolo, who's a Christian sociologist, writer, speaker, was at a conference in Hawaii. And that's a great place to have a conference. It really is. He said because of the jet lag, because he was in New York at the time, because of the jet lag, he said 2 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't sleep. He said, so I got up and I walked out of my hotel down to a little 24-hour diner and just sat in there. And he said, I sat in there, and after a while, a bunch of women came in, dressed like women of the night, because that's what they were. And he said, I'd never seen anything like it. And he said, so I'm sitting here with my coffee listening to these women talk after they finished their night's work. And I think you know what I'm talking about. And one of them, who was, he said, fairly young, he didn't know how old she was, mentioned that the next day was her birthday. And she'd never had a birthday party. Well, when they finally got up to leave, Tony went to the owner of the diner and told him his plan. He says, I'd like to have a birthday party for that young lady tomorrow when she comes in. The guy got excited. He got his wife in on it. They decorated the place. The next night, when the ladies finished their night's work, they came in and they gave a birthday party for this young lady that never had one. You say, well, what happened because of that? Nothing. Not with the women, but with the owner of the restaurant. When they all left, he asked Tony, he said, who are you? He said, well, I pastor a church that gives birthday parties for whores. He said, where is it? My wife and I'll be there Sunday. Well, it's in New York. So that just goes to show you there's segments of our society that are not being reached. And maybe the Lord laying on your heart one of those segments of society. Motorcycle clubs, prostitutes, people trying to get out of drugs, world's wide open. And just like Wally said, whether they know it or not, they need Jesus. And that's our job. Would you stand with me? We're going to pray. We're not going to have a song, but Wally, thank you for what well, I can honestly say something's changed in me because of what he said. And I won't ever be the same. You can't look at people and look down on them. Because if you do, you'll never reach them with the gospel.